I'm really excited about our View from the Field panel. It's a chance for us to hear from those who are literally in the field and either hoping for rain today in Nebraska or not, I'm not sure. But these are the farmers who are making it happen and the people who help them do that, that work directly with them to support their work. So now I'm really pleased to introduce our moderator as well, Jackie Ourada, who you know may hear on the radio. She's from Nebraska Public Media. So Jackie, take it away.
Hi, welcome to Nebraska. I'm Jackie Ourada. I am a radio news announcer for Nebraska Public Media. That's the NPR affiliate here in Lincoln. I'm from Crete, which is about half an hour away from here, not too far of a drive. Graduated from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln with a journalism degree, and I cover in my spare time when I'm not announcing ag issues, rural issues, climate, the weather, agriculture, anything that really falls in that sphere, even though it's pretty large. Grateful to be here today. I will have each panelist share a little bit about themselves. I think a few have also brought some pictures that will appear on the screen. So I'll have first Samir introduce himself.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? No?
Very well.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Here we go. I can speak a little louder. All right. I was about to start screaming, and that would have been a huge problem right as the mic turned on. My name is Samir Ibrahim. I run a company called SunCulture. We're headquartered in Nairobi, Kenya, in East Africa. We are the largest solar irrigation company in Africa. We sell and finance and service small-scale solar irrigation systems for smallholder farmers, or what people in this part of the world call small-share farmers. Our farmers have an average of about 2.5 acres, and we're helping them increase their yields with irrigation. As some of you may know, irrigation is a huge issue all over the world for many farmers, particularly in places like sub-Saharan Africa, where only 4% of farmers irrigate because things are too expensive. So we use an embedded financing platform and carbon revenues to make the cost of solar irrigation 50% cheaper than diesel and petrol pumps. And then we handle the installation, the training, the ongoing maintenance, and the after-sales support. We are a for-profit business. I'm adding that because of a conversation I had about 30 minutes ago, where people think that if you're serving smallholder farmers in emerging markets, you're a nonprofit. That's not true. We are very much a for-profit company, and one of my goals is to share and debunk a lot of myths around working in Africa and working with smallholder farmers being a hard business. Smallholder farmers are incredible customers, and hopefully through the course of this panel, I'll be able to share with you why.
Thank you. We have Tracy next. Tracy, if you want to introduce
Good afternoon. My name is Tracy Zinc, and I farm in southwest Nebraska, about 3 hours to the west of here. We have both irrigated and dry land acres, and I tend to think of ourselves as farmers as we have a nonprofit mentality, although we definitely actively seek that profit. My first career was all around sports and fitness, and as my parents aged, I needed to come home and help them, and that's when my wellness transition happened to plants instead of people, and it's a lot easier to deal with a plant than a fitness person. Trying to get anybody to stay healthy is a lot harder. Now I just have to add the fungicide and hope that I did it at the right time. Otherwise, we use a rotation of field corn, soybeans, sorghum, and winter wheat. And a key difference between a lot of us up here is kind of I laugh because it's the haves and the have-nots, whether that's 2 acres versus a medium-sized farmer in Nebraska would be around the 2,500. See if Jay's in 3,000 in there. Whether it's, I look at Jay, who might get 25 inches of rain, to me, who might get 12. I'm the one hoping and praying for the rain here in Nebraska. It's just such a diverse, when we talk about, Nigeria or anywhere, we are always looking on the other side of the fence, and the grass is always greener. And so I'm very thankful for a lot of the blessings that I have. I wish I had a few challenges that other producers have that I'd have to learn with, like more water pressure, less weed pressure so that we didn't have the resistance. But everyone here is going to have that, and that's where that resiliency comes in as producers. And so I'm excited to be a part of this today and share what a glimpse of what production in western Nebraska looks like.
Thanks, Tracy. Next, we have Adam, who will be translating for Karen.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Karen.
Good afternoon, my name is Karen.
No sé cómo empezar.
A little bit nervous.
Bueno, trabajo para Tierra Saludable Ameyalli en El Salvador.
I work for a company called Tierra Saludable Ameyalli, which we'll call TSA.
Es una empresa familiar que
It's
nació,
our family business
que nació en el 2005.
that started in 2005.
Ahora estoy acá con mi papá y mi hermano por ahí.
I'm here with my brother and my dad.
Bueno, iniciamos en el 2019
And then we started the business in 2019,
formando a pequeños productores en agricultura de conservación.
providing technical support and training to small farmers in regenerative agriculture.
A la fecha estamos atendiendo a 1,300 agricultores.
We're supporting around 1,300 small-scale farmers.
Principalmente me enfoco en la parte de jóvenes en el centro.
I primarily focus on coordinating and supporting young farmers in our area.
De igual manera en la creación de currículas de formación a estos pequeños agricultores.
I help develop the curriculums for our trainings for all of the producers that we work with.
Junto al equipo técnico nos enfocamos en dar temas claves en agricultura de conservación.
With our technical team, we focus on providing support on key practices and topics that we can give to the farmers that we work with
En la zona occidental de El Salvador.
in Western El Salvador.
Thank you, Adam and Karen. And next, we have Jay.
Welcome to Nebraska. A nice rainy day. I wish it was outside because the last 2 years we haven't really got to experience rain. I am a fourth generation farmer from 100 miles straight west of here, about 160 kilometers straight west of here, all irrigated corn and soy, mostly corn, a little bit of soybeans. I am actually a retired farmer. Yes, I am young for retirement. I'm only 54, but none of my children wanted to come back and farm, so I chose to hang it up. In my spare time that I've had, I'm past chairman of Nebraska Corn Board. I still sit on the Nebraska Corn Board. I am also the current Secretary Treasurer of United States Grains Council, where I'll assume responsibility of chairmanship in 2 years. And then I have a friend that spoke yesterday, Brandon Honeycutt. We're co-founders of a company called Sustainable Agriculture Solutions for Africa, where we want to go to Africa to help small shareholder farmers become more productive and more profitable to stay on their farms, and at the same time help develop large producers for yellow maize for livestock production.
Next, we have Dhone.
So good afternoon. My name is Dhone Dugnani. First of all, I would like to apologize in advance. Maybe my English not so good as far as my fourth language, supposed to 5 I speak. If I need any kind of help, I'm going to use Ivo's helps here. But I will try to do by myself. Okay. So I've been also between the 4th generation of agriculture growers in Brazil. I've been born there, but born in the one state and raised in another one. And nowadays, I moved to a totally different region. Our region is Western Bahia. It's known by all times, known by the drought that there we had, although the agriculture there is just developed in the last 30 to 40 years. Since the beginning, it was already known because of this drought. I used to raise coffee during 12 years, but not anymore. Nowadays, I'm just mainly producing soybean and also maize, also sorghum, millet, and I brought here a picture of this castor area to producing castor oil. My first time growing castor. What more can I share with you? I think it's good.
Good. Okay.
For introduction.
Yeah. We have a wide array of guests. I'll begin with a few questions, but if anyone in the audience, if you have a question, please let us know. I think we have some microphones to disperse for people who have audience questions. I'll start. USDA census data continues to show the average age of the American farmer is increasing. Farms are getting bigger and more unattainable, at least here in Nebraska. And there's not a growing number of kids interested in agriculture. My question for the panel is, what led us to this point, and what can we do differently to build that ag pipeline in younger generations, whether that's in Hastings, Nebraska, or El Salvador? I might start with Tracy, because we had talked about this earlier. Yeah.
Actually, when I was thinking about this question a bit, it's a little bit of the capital issue, that a lot of younger farmers won't have the capital to get in as their own entity. So if you're not starting with your family, you're probably not starting, or you're using a hired man situation. The other avenue that I think is preventing some of our youth from coming home is the fact that in the United States, ag has really become a true profession. It's recognized. We talked at lunch about how it used to just be what you did if you couldn't do anything else, if you didn't go to school. Well, now it's cool to be a farmer. And where we have the technology advancements have really opened up avenues. I think if you can fully operate a skid steer, drive a truck, anything like that, you can make a living. And I think that that's a difference between coming home to farm means taking on all the stress and all the debt and all the 24/7 lifestyle, and it just doesn't fit anymore to the extent that I think it used to. And so while we still have it, I think they're coming back in a dual role. And so with our FFA in the United States, I think that's a key element of continuing to foster youth in ag and expose different people to ag that normally wouldn't see it. And so obviously some of the panel are doing that with the young farmers. So I'm going to yield on.
Absolutely.
Good.
I would like to add some comments to Tracy's participation here. As you could see, I'm a younger farmer. Sorry. What can I see? Sometimes it's a movement, normal movement, something that almost happens to me, that leaving or giving up about being a grower, because sometimes when we can see not being so profitable activities and hard working too much, and almost sometimes spending the health, we can give up about being growers. So something is, what can we do? Sometimes there's no much to do, but just part of a movement. We are agreeing more land, and to be more competitive is sometimes just a movement, I think, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think Karen, specializes in helping bring more younger generations into farming. What is your perspective?
Bueno, en Ameyalli lo que nos ha funcionado, por decirlo así,
In TSA, what's really worked for us to bring get young people interested
es acercarnos más a la juventud
is to get closer to the local youth
mediante actividades que a ellos les llama la atención.
through activities that are more attractive to them.
Y los comentarios son, antes decían que la agricultura era muy difícil, que el sol muy fuerte.
What youth typically will mention to them about why they don't want to work in agriculture is that it's really hard work, it doesn't pay well, you're in the sun. In El Salvador, most agriculture is manual.
pero ahora hemos introducido más tecnología a la agricultura.
In TSA, what we're trying to do is introduce more technology into agriculture.
Nos hemos acercado más a las instituciones educativas.
We're also working directly with some of the local agricultural technical high schools and universities,
Introduciendo temas en agricultura, mecanización, ganadería.
introducing more mechanization, different ways to manage livestock,
Lo que ha hecho que los jóvenes cambien su perspectiva hacia la agricultura.
which has really helped young people to change their perspective on what agriculture really means.
Hemos también incidido en el Ministerio de Educación
We've also been working with the Ministry of Education in El Salvador
para hacer un pequeño cambio en el pensum académico de los bachilleratos agropecuarios.
to make more investments in the agricultural technical high schools.
Y hemos tenido un aumento en la matrícula o en la inscripción de jóvenes en estos temas o en esta opción de bachillerato.
And it's through some of these activities we've seen an increase in the registration rate in these high schools in our area.
Pero tenemos un ejemplo claro en TSA,
We even have a really clear example within TSA.
que es mi hermano que está por ahí.
My brother,
Él estudiaba ingeniería eléctrica,
he was studying to be an electrician,
que no es malo, pero
which is a fine career choice.
él decidió cambiar su opción para ingeniería agronómica.
But after seeing the work that we were doing in TSA and some of the different options, he changed his career path, his study path is to engineering, machine engineering.
Y pues ahora da capacitaciones en maquinaria a estos jóvenes de los bachilleratos agropecuarios.
And now he's giving trainings on mechanization to young people in our area.
Y pues especializándose ahora en la gira en Nebraska,
And we-
conociendo el museo de tractores.
And then we got to come here to Nebraska and got to go to the museum and the laboratory and really seeing what there can be.
Y su entusiasmo por seguir aprendiendo más sobre
And
maquinaria.
he's gotten very excited seeing all this really nice machinery.
Entonces sí creo que es un incentivo el poder aumentar la tecnología y que sea más llamativa y rentable, ¿verdad? Para los jóvenes y que sea rentable para sus familias.
Yeah, so making agriculture more attractive, more profitable will bring young people back to agriculture.
Thank you. If you would like to ask a question, I believe we have a microphone set up. Please, I think, yeah, just one over here. If you would like to make your way to the microphone and ask a question, we would love to hear from you as well. I'll ask another quick question. If I gave you an unlimited sum of money to research and explore a pressing or even just an often overlooked issue in our ag or water systems, what would you focus your attention on with that money? I can start with you, Samir.
I'll take it. Unlimited is an interesting number. I'm gonna flip it a little bit in a different way because we can be here for a long time with unlimited. One of the things that I think about a lot is I think there's this. People are quite surprised at how relatively little money is required to solve really big problems. So I'll take an example that I spoke about just recently. So in Kenya, if we were to deploy enough irrigation to get the country to become 100% food secure, and I just assume I take a bunch of assumptions, calories versus nutrition diversification, import versus export, et cetera. Just we've taken the assumptions, but if we were to deploy enough irrigation to get the entire country to become food secure, it would only cost us $244 million. Now, that's a large sum of money, but when you think about getting an entire nation of 50 million people, many of whom are suffering the worst drought they've seen in 70 years, many of whom are food insecure, it's not that much money. And then you start taking this and you start building blocks into different regions. So when people say, what would you do with unlimited money, I would go and start getting countries to become food secure in the most food insecure areas, and start replicating it. We're working a bit on that with different funders and with the government, putting together different pools of capital. But my biggest question to funders when I meet them is, how much do you actually think it costs to get this done? Every single investor I've ever spoken to guesses a number that's more than 5 times bigger than what I told you. And it's this sort of misunderstanding that there's a lot of research to be done, and I think there's a lot of technology that needs to be developed. But like what Tracy was saying, capital is a big issue. And if capital is available, I think that farmers can actually do what they need to do. And it's less for me about innovation, it's more about using the global standard of making capital available at affordable rates and having both equity and debt available at the right time to be able to solve these problems. So whenever people talk about, I want to speak on innovative financing, I'm like, it's actually not innovative. It's just the global standard. Have capital available when it's required, at terms that are fair, and farmers will get it done.
Did anyone want to add on to that? If not, we can take an audience.
Oh, I got to say one, because we're
Oh.
so desperate for the rain. We have got to do something with forecasting. Weathermen are the only people who can be wrong all the time and still be employed, as well as breeding. I think it goes hand in hand that a lot of the main crops have received all the research and funding, while some of the crops that could lend itself a lot more to food security haven't gotten that attention. So, you know, it's kind of like what's paying the bills. At a university, football does. In farming, corn does. And so we need to kind of level out some of that research, if I could just dole some money out and do that. But hopefully we can stop kind of beating the dead horse that might be corn in some areas of the world that shouldn't maybe grow it anymore because of their water limitations. So that would be my wish.
Thank you. Take a question from the audience.
I wanted to follow up on solar pumps in sub-Saharan Africa. And I'm well aware of the work that your company does. It's a very innovative and progressive company. I have 2 questions. The first one is, your previous intervention implied capital is the roadblock. I have my doubts that it's only capital, but if you could tell us what, say, 2 things that are really blocking scaling out solar irrigation on a large scale and what could be done about them. And my other question refers to targeting. At the moment, it's the relatively well-off farmers that can scrape up the money or can participate in your pay-as-you-go programs and so on. How do you target those without the money in the market access, particularly women? Thank you.
Thanks for your familiarity with our work. So we have, just to set context, we work with 60,000 smallholder farmers in Kenya, Uganda, and Ivory Coast mostly. But what's been interesting is that we've gone from 30,000 to 60,000 in the last 2 years, and we're going to double in size again in the next 2 years. And we've been around for 12 years. So a lot of our growth is coming recently. So when you ask sort of what does it take to get to scale, and we're very much subscale. The biggest thing that's changed for us is affordability. So we do this in 2 ways. We, of course, lend on balance sheets. So as you mentioned, our pay-as-you-go program, farmers pay us a deposit and then pay us in monthly installments over 2.5 years. So the monthly cost is lower. But we also generate carbon credits by displacing diesel and petrol pumps, sell those carbon credits, and use those revenues to subsidize farmers. Unlike in the US, there's no subsidies in any country in Africa right now. I was on the board of the IRS equivalent in Kenya for a year, which is a story for a whole another day. And governments don't have money, they're servicing debt. There's absolutely no capital available for any incentive. So we have to generate a non-government commercial subsidy in the form of carbon revenues to subsidize it. So the first thing is affordability. The World Bank and folks are coming in right now, but it's affordability. The second is access to financing. We're not a bank, but 50% of our customers are getting their first access to credit from us. That's wild, right? When you go to a bank in many emerging markets, they'll ask farmers for 2 things. One is a pay slip, The farmers are like, I don't have a pay slip. Or collateral, and the banks aren't comfortable taking irrigation as collateral. But because we're able to repossess our systems if required, we can shut them off remotely if required. We can have formal sort of credit controls. We're able to raise debt to go and lend. So if farmers had access to credit, and if they had a way to make the things more affordable, then things scale. Now that rolls into your second question is sort of more of the well-off farmers can afford this. It's actually now changed because we're seeing farmers who are completely subsistence farmers scrape up the $30 or $40 required for a deposit, and our monthly installments are now at $17, so it's about 50 cents a day at the lowest price point. Because our farmers all practice mixed farming out of requirement, so they all keep animals because milk gets picked up weekly, so they get paid weekly. They all keep some sort of small kitchen garden, so they grow some leafy vegetables because they can harvest that in 3 months for a couple of months, and they all grow maize, beans, or potatoes, so they can harvest it every 6 months or so. They're managing their cash flows in sort of a very interesting way. So it's the monthly payment that matters the most. So we've seen a huge increase in sort of the range of farmers that are working with us because of affordability. There's a big nonlinear correlation between price and addressable market. So we reduced our price by 28%, and our sales went up by over 4.5 times because way more people can afford it. So you solve the second question by fixing the first question.
And the structure of it, so that if you've never had to budget and you're in $1 million operation, you know how to do it. And so getting that 3-month, 4-month, I think kind of makes it that profitability.
And we actually,
they know how to do it.
Farmers, our loan terms are up to 3 years. And so many of our farmers are paying us off before that. They're paying us at 28 months on average. But we say, look, you've never done this before. You've never had access to credit before. You've never had to budget before. Luckily, you're making more money on a monthly basis because of the way you farm that you can pay us back from your increase in income. That's the trick. That's actually the big secret. I wish it was more. I wish we could have a better secret, but everyone's like, we have 96% collection rates from smallholder farmers in Africa. And everyone's like, what's the secret? I was like, it's actually not a secret. You just help people make more money and they want to pay you back. The other side of that is that farmers who are using fuel pumps are spending $40 to $80 a month just on fuel, when that's probably half of what they're making on an annual basis. So the trick is just to help people make more money, and then they'll be happy to pay you back. Big secret today.
Thank you. And thank you for the question. If you do have a question for the panel, there is a microphone right over there, and I'll try to keep my eye on it to watch. Oh, second microphone, please.
First time standing in front of you with the energy only because of the food you produce, and I eat those foods every day. Please accept my deep salute for all of you in the panel who are farmers, that you are a farmer. Before I start my question, I want to salute you, become a farmer. In 2014, I read a quote: farming is not a rocket science. It is beyond that. And also there is a taboo, a perceived assumption among the people across the globe, including United States, that if you cannot be successful in any other field, if you cannot be a doctor or engineer or educator or professor, then you become a farmer. What a wrong perceived assumption among the people. So today my question is, can you please describe why did you choose to become a farmer despite you had so many career options? Please break the taboo of the people across the globe from this forum that what was your belief to become a farmer? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Jay, would you like to start with that one?
Sure. I grew up, I'm fourth generation. I live on the original homestead from 1892. Farming's in my blood. Graduated from college here with the degree in general ag. So for me, it was a way of life. But I grew up, my parents went through the farm crisis of the early and mid 80s. So I'm used to stress, I guess. I don't know. My body says otherwise. But yeah, so I chose farming as a way of life, but as I got older and the farm began to grow, more responsibilities, it became a business. And that's something that we have to, here in the United States specifically, we have to separate. It's from a way of life, it's a business. We have to run it, you have to throw emotions out the door now. And my work in sub-Saharan Africa, it's kind of different. There, just like you said, farming is taboo. You go into farming if you don't have a college education. So families over there, regardless of what country it's in, really push to go to college, get a master's or PhD. Well, those are some of the highest unemployment rates in sub-Saharan Africa, or post-college degree people, because there's no industry to support their education. So we have to figure out how to make farming fun again. Here in the U.S., we have technology. I've spent well over $250,000 US from the mid-90s in the last 30 years to get to where I was today. The rest of the world, you know, developing agricultural countries, they're going to start out with the latest and greatest technology at a price point that's a lot more reasonable than I did in the 90s and early 2000s. So, yeah, and that's why my kids didn't return, is because it's a business. It's some year, it's feast or famine. You make money one year to live off the next 5 years. And none of my kids wanted to do that, which I don't blame them. They're all successful in their careers. So, but yeah, we have to figure out how to make farming fun again for the rest of the world, so that people go back into farming to produce food for their nations that are importing tremendous amounts of food now.
Did anyone else want to jump in on that question?
Let me try to add something. Okay, all Jay said is true. Okay, maybe it's beautiful, producing, seeing a plant growing, but it's also an opportunity of business. So it must be something you see, possibility of a way of life, earning money, like our participant told. Once people tell us, if you do not study, if you are not good in anything, you should remain on the farm. But nowadays, it's totally the opposite. We're here. You should study to keep yourself, your family on farm. You probably will not able to stay farming if you're not study. And also, I was remember some examples that happens, at least in our region. We saw many other, how I tell, funções, assim de... Okay, how can I tell? I saw people working in other areas. That's happened, like I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm working in other areas, and because nowadays it's beautiful being a farm, it could be profitable. In these last years, people try to change, doctor, lawyers, I'm sorry, they try to be farmers, renting farms, or sometimes they had a farm from the family that they live this, and they started farming, but had no successful, and they gave up and go back to the other activity they used to be done, like being a lawyer or a doctor. So it's different. One thing we were talking in our delegation is not for everyone aptidão. How can I say aptidão? Skills. It's not any. It's a multiply kind of things. It's not something you can input in someone to this skill. Okay, just that.
I'm going to add one thing quickly. Yeah. When I got back, budget, Dad, budget. And he looked at me and he said, if you have to budget, you better not farm. And it took me forever to figure out what he meant, but what he meant was, if you have to live for a penny, you won't make it to your first dollar. And so what he was trying to teach me is that it's a multi-year operation. It's not just one crop, hopefully. That's the mindset. And when you think about, I guarantee you Jay didn't have many fun days because of the time frame and the fact that too bad his kids wouldn't come back, because I guarantee you he would have had the mindset that said, we're done by 8, no later. You guys get with your family, get with your friends. Wednesday is your night away, and that's what we're trying to do, is have a mindset. The reason why we do it is because of the legacy. That one question you asked, and a lot of it is because it is, you know, when it's cool to farm again. People care about the food that we're growing, and so that is validation of what we're trying to do, and what everybody's trying to do is do it right. And so it's fun to be on that train for once instead of ruining the planet. But the mindset of making it fun and making it a true career, I think, is critical for success. It's Karen.
Yeah.
Quizás todos tenemos la misma perspectiva a responder esta pregunta.
It seems that we all kind of have the same perspective on this question.
Siempre es por generaciones,
Yeah, a big part of it's to be part of a generational legacy.
pero en particular
Personally,
decidí estudiar agronomía
I decided to go study agronomy
por mi familia. Mi familia ha sido agricultora desde sus años atrás.
because of my family, because my family had been farmers for forever.
Y pues yo quería impulsarlos, quería ayudarles a salir adelante.
And I wanted to go study something that would help to help them succeed and be more successful and be more profitable in what we do as a family.
Pasé por un proceso de formación
So I went and went through a training process
hasta llegar a la universidad.
and then going through university in San Marano.
Luego jamás me imaginé regresar a casa y crear una empresa familiar.
And I never thought that I would go back home and then start a business through our farm,
Donde mi hermano, yo y mis papás
where I would be able to work with my parents and my brother,
podemos enseñar a más agricultores
and then be able to help other farmers in our area
sobre agricultura de conservación o agricultura regenerativa.
to get them to adopt and regenerative agriculture.
Pero quizás lo que me incentiva más es ser un agente de cambio en mi comunidad para incentivar a más jóvenes.
But what most motivates me is to be a change agent to incentivize and to motivate young people to do something similar to what I'm doing.
Y demostrar que la agricultura es bonita, es
And,
chiva, como se dice.
and demonstrate that agriculture, being a farmer, is beautiful. It's also fun. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Oh, do we have a question?
In line with farming being a business, I mean, we always hear the push for yield, right? But I guess a lot of the conversation has shifted towards quantity to quality, so more nutritious foods. And that doesn't necessarily always blend with the business model of farming. So I guess what are your guys' perspectives as food producers for producing more nutrient or more nutritious foods as opposed to just focusing on yields?
I'll kick it off just because I'm more of just a grain farmer. So a lot of my crops don't go directly they go to feed animals, you know, and so I'm a little bit removed from that. But I think the ROI, return on investment, is the same no matter what, whether you're growing those vegetables. If you're not making, you have to adjust to what your ground can provide, to what your community can, and so you won't grow healthy food if nobody wants it. You won't grow unhealthy food if nobody will eat it? And so, what we're doing is slowly moving the needle, I hope, towards that healthier avenue that you're talking about. Sorghum is one of those things with the gut biome and everything that we're seeing a real push towards that non-GMO. But it's not everywhere. It'll just be a track. And so I'll pass it down for some of the others that may grow some more of the local food sources.
So I'll add something. So Tracy, you said we just grow it for animals. Well, but genetics have really pushed yes, when you talk about nutrition, people automatically think nutrition for humans. Well, as a corn farmer in south central Nebraska that has multiple feedlots around me, we're talking about nutrition for animal feed. So as genetics have come along, that's been a huge focus of seed companies, is nutrition for livestock, but also nutrition for ethanol plants. And I will say it is nutrition for ethanol plants because they're getting more yield per bushel for a gallon of ethanol. At the same time, DDG nutrient levels are going up for livestock production at the same time. So yeah, we can think of nutrition in human levels, but we also have to think of nutrition in livestock levels too.
Good point. I can add something, just a representation of a different segment. So our customers, one of the challenges they have when thinking about growing higher nutritious crops is that they just can't afford all of the inputs required for that. So all the seeds, tomato seeds are more expensive than growing maize, for example, on a smallholder farm. So what we're starting to do in this quarter is we're starting to finance high quality inputs for them. So we're saying, okay, if you really want to grow higher value crops, if you want to grow food with higher nutrition value, we're actually making an investment into an agriculture input company so we can control the quality of inputs that they get. Because the big problem is they either think they're getting high quality inputs and they're crap and they don't germinate, or they can't afford the high quality inputs. So we're taking it back to the point of access to capital means that farmers can choose to grow the higher nutritious food, which people are paying a higher dollar for, at least in our markets, but they just can't afford to buy the inputs up front. So we're solving it from that way. I know a little different from a context perspective, but hopefully interesting.
I believe we have another question.
So a farmer will grow either what he and his family can consume or what the market will pay him for. As I'm sure the panelists are aware, our new administration in the United States has pursued a very aggressive tariff policy, and there have been counter tariffs imposed. And what those tariffs are today could be different tomorrow. So thinking about that, how has that impacted your farms or your customers?
Well, to not be political, I would say that we have incredible hope as an industry, and I think both sides can see that there was good on one side and not good on another in different places. And so I still have hope that we'll settle somewhere that can be positive. It sure is scary in the meantime. The volatility of those decisions really impacts us who are making year-long and multi-year decisions. And I think the people that are removed from farming forget that we're buying inputs a year or two in advance, and when we don't know if there'll be a market for those, so it's real scary. And the farming trend is keep your head down and keep going. And I don't know any other way through that except through it. Just to charge forward.
I'll put my U.S. Grains Council hat on. Most of the U.S. thinks that, oh, Trump's the first one to ever put tariffs on. Every other country has tariffs against our products, whether they're non-tariff barriers or if they're actual tariffs. Trying not to be political here, but he's trying, there is no such thing as free trade. Never has been, never will be. We have to get to a fair trade system. Now, the way he's doing it on some countries is probably not right, but he's looking out for America. At the same time, there's countries who have been living off tariffs off U.S. products since World War II. So he's trying to level the playing field. And as far as a direct correlation back to business, any trade war sucks for farming. It doesn't matter because we are buying at full retail, selling at wholesale, you know, and we pay transportation both ways. So it hurts short term, but I think the long-term benefits are going to be very beneficial for the ag industry.
Any other? Okay. Thank you so much for your question. We'll probably move on to the closing Q&A part. One last question. Maybe we can spend 2 minutes per speaker on this. This starts out Nebraska related, but could probably apply to anywhere you are in the world. Nebraska and the entire U.S. just had a record-breaking windy March, which took its financial toll both on urban and rural areas. Our state is also dealing with more wildfires and persistent drought years. Many parts of the world are dealing with similar weather issues, such as larger and more unpredictable fire seasons, extreme drought, or even extreme rainfall. What more needs to be done to ensure our food growing operations can handle more extreme and inconsistent weather patterns? Or how have you adapted to more unpredictable weather? We can start maybe with Samir and work our way down.
Do you want to start with Nebraska first?
Sure, yeah.
And I alluded to it once, but I'll just put that
Go
back
for it.
out there again, is that was the dead horse I was referring to. If you don't have enough rain for a certain crop, stop trying to grow it. Find one that works that you can still be profitable with, and you have to start experimenting with that before it's too late. And so we have to do our best to weather-proof our fully exposed product to the weather as best we can. Hedging your bets with crop insurance, with thankfully the Farm Bill at this point is still subsidized, so we're still able to do that to protect that. That's another political issue, I'm sure, for folks. But not putting all our eggs in one basket so that we don't have the same crops at the same maturities, pollinating at the same time. It's just this delicate balance of juggling is about the only way. It's so volatile and it's so fast that it is hard to prepare for. And hopefully we can maintain a community system of readiness to support one another, as well as regional and national. Continue that. Jay.
Okay, I will, since this is all about water, Nebraska leads the world in irrigation technology. I think the rest of the world can learn a lot about where we have come from and where we are going. Our aquifer, in the dry years we do drop down, but we also have quick recharges, unlike the states to the south of us, that they don't have a quick recharge and they're depleting their aquifer. Nebraska's done a really good job, especially like UNL, Valmont, Lindsay, TNL, Frankie, developing new irrigation technology to be a lot more resilient. Plus the seed companies, we have the new traits and genetics that are coming out, are starting to be bred for a lot more drought tolerance, a lot better water use efficiency and nitrogen use efficiency in those plants, that we don't have to irrigate near as much. And I think the rest of the world is probably starting to recognize that, and I think that is something that, as a state of Nebraska, we can export pretty cheap, or technology knowledge.
I thought you were going to say water, and I'm like,
Nope.
Jay.
Nope, I'm not exporting water, just in my corn.
Well said.
I'm curious to see in other countries how you are adapting to climates that are changing rapidly.
I can take it. In the countries we work in and the countries we're looking at, as you know, smallholder farmers in these markets are they contribute the least amount to climate change, but they're getting the most affected, which is a really sad part of their situation. Many of them are facing, as I said, the worst droughts that they've ever seen in their entire lives. And the alternative terrain is filling up a bucket with 20 liters of water, which weighs 45 pounds. So if you've been to the gym recently, it's those big weight plates in the gym. And they carry those buckets from the water source to the farm, and it takes a lot of time, and they're falling, and it's really unsustainable. So irrigation, as Jay said, is a really good first step. It's a really good hedge against the inconsistent and unreliable rainfall. What we've started to notice with our customers is that once we protect them with that, there's all these other things that they run into. So health emergencies. The number one reason we don't get paid back is because many farmers in the countries we work in are uninsured, so they don't have health insurance or life insurance. So that's a big problem. Second is figuring out if there is a drought and water tables drop and they need to dig further down to get to the water source. They're not able to pump water. So what we've done is we've started bundling other products and services from other companies to be able to provide more of a package. So we started bundling health insurance last September. So all of our farmers now have life insurance and hospital insurance. We're starting to design a parametric weather insurance that looks at a region and says, okay, if there is drought or if there is some sort of parameter that's met, we blanket give people and pay out for insurance in that area. So it's a lot easier than relying on the weather stations that don't actually track the weather, but looking at it from a parametric perspective. We're starting to bundle in offtake. So if you grow and you can't get access to market and the risk is there, people offtake it. So we're saying, how do we look at all the climate shocks that people experience, both from a farming perspective and then all the other climate shocks, which could be health related, et cetera, and how do we bundle services into a package because we're an aggregator of farmers. So I'm always an advocate of companies taking a more bundled approach. Don't just say I do one thing. So yes, irrigation is super important, and the technology that's been developed here and deployed here is best in the world. What else can be bundled with irrigation to protect people who have other needs outside of just the big need of water? And that's the approach that we've taken.
We have about 5 minutes left for Karen and Dhone.
Quizás lo más importante en todo esto es la optimización de los recursos naturales.
For us, the most important thing is to optimize natural resources.
Pero nosotros implementamos una serie de prácticas
So we focus on supporting farmers to apply a series of set of practices.
incorporando maquinaria, sí, pero más enfocada en mínima perturbación del suelo.
No-till planting, whether that be with machinery or without machinery manually.
Una de estas prácticas es el manejo de rastrojos o la no quema.
Yeah, making sure where we are, a big problem is slash and burn. So getting farmers to maintain and manage soil residue and ground cover.
La segunda es la incorporación de cultivos de cobertura o leguminosas.
And we focus a lot on incorporating cover crops, specifically leguminous cover crops.
Esto para generar un microclima en nuestros suelos y crear una microfauna dentro de ellos.
Focused on creating a microclimate and to support soil humidity and biology, microbiology.
Y la tercera es la diversificación de los cultivos.
And also, like some of the other people on the panel have said, diversifying crops with the farmers that we work with.
Yeah. Thank you. Dhone?
Okay, I will try to explain. I would clap my hands for what explanation, Karen, of all of you here. And as you told Jackie, although the question starts talking about Nebraska, this environmental issue happens in the entire world. So first of all, talking about the climate change, we should make another question. So talking climate change is sometimes, how can I say, redundance exists this word, because looking back through the ages, time is always changing. How many glaciations do we have? So, but the question is, we having this, and what we can do, agreeing with Jay like we are in a global conference about water and food. So irrigation is a key word in this, in solving this problem, in the solution. Using the better water and intensifying, like it was told in many times here, the crops, the cultivation, the productivity, and for an example, these good practices like regenerative agriculture, most of the things we are already doing in our region, in our country. For an example, for me, it would be great if the whole entire world agreed some practice we did in Brazil, like having at least a legally reserve a percentage of the area, keep this area preserved, and also these covering areas and rotating crops. All this we already do. For sure, it will help. For an example, about the fires and things that most happen in our region. We have some brigades that was made by ourselves, the growers. So sometimes we are far from the city, and if we have a fire, asking firework to go there, everything should be burned in a few hours, and they will not be arrived. So we decided to make some brigades by ourselves and keep some boundaries clean. So there are many things we can do.
Yeah.
Real quick, gotta tell you, Karen's point about teaching them how to be resilient, it's so spot on because there's no quick solution with ag. We've got to build the soil structure that allows the water to go down, which is different root structures, which is the quality of the soil, and there's so many different things, not spraying fence row to fence row so that there can be livestock and prairie strips and different things. So it's so eclectic and such a myriad of things, but I think the key is starting and teaching.
On this point, the crazy thing about climate change is that we all know that it's making it harder to grow more food. Yeah, we need to grow more food to feed a growing population. Everyone has seen the charts. The irony here is that agriculture contributes to 1/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions. So a big unfortunate burden we all have as the ones that grow food that's required to feed a growing population is that we have the unfortunate heavy responsibility of figuring out how do we decouple growing food from carbonization, which goes to the practices that we're talking about. And I think it's all of our responsibilities to ask ourselves, in the work that we do, how do we grow food in a way that doesn't contribute to climate change while trying to solve the problem from the other side? And I think we all have that responsibility.
Thank you for your perspectives. Before we wrap up, I wanted to invite Bob Meany to the stage for a special presentation. Thank you again for your questions. Thank you again, panelists, for your perspectives and insight.
Thank you, Jackie, and thanks to our panelists. It's also my favorite, one of my favorite parts of the Water for Food conference, and I really thank you for a really great session. Thanks. So, this evening, we will celebrate the 15th anniversary of the Doherty Water for Food Global Institute. And for more than 8 of those years, our executive director, Peter McCormick, has helped guide the Institute in achieving these goals. This is Peter's last conference as our executive director before he transitions to a new role with the university this summer. Would you please join me in thanking Peter for his dedication to water and food security. Peter.